welcome back to Season 1, Episode 2 of the Boiler Treatment, where I am your host, Carson. This is my channel, of course. Talk about choo-choos all day. And we've had his brother on his channel. He's been our guest for the first episode as well. It's my father, Eric Hatter.
How you doing?
Yeah, me and his brother. You should totally watch this video where we try different fake Dr. Peppers and try to find the real Dr. Pepper, and we end up finding a bunch of really gross alternatives, which are just horrible.
I did not know that combining A&W root beer and Coke was supposed to taste like Dr. Pepper.
It tastes like Dr. Pepper, but it doesn't smell like Dr. Pepper. It's not bad. It's better than the other ones. So you did end up watching it?
I did watch it.
Okay. Well, speaking of him watching
all
my
30
channel,
minutes of it.
All 30, yeah. Bit long. All right. Well, speaking of YouTube channels, I highly recommend you check out his channel, E Hatter. He has lots of fun little rare-related stuff, a few kayaking trips, stuff like that. A little more informative than my channel because I'm just goofy and I don't have any.
It's
any degrees.
basically whatever the heck I want to put on my channel.
Yeah, but he has more informative stuff, which is cool. Like
some educational stuff.
Some
stuff about technology.
Yes. Yes. I think you have one or two really good videos out there about the just like mechanics of a steam locomotive, like valve gear and whatnot.
Yep.
I highly recommend watching it. It's very
there's 2 parts on drafting systems, and then a good in-depth tour of a steam locomotive and how some of the systems work, lubrication, all kinds of things.
Right. Very cool. Right. Well, boiler treatment. That's where we are. So the way this whole thing works, we're going to do a few seasons. I don't know how far it's going to go, but maybe 2 to 3 episodes a season, maybe 4, where we just kind of trade stories, maybe ask each other a few questions. We're going to have other guests on the show, of course, in probably season 2 or 3 or whatnot.
How are you going to decide when it's the end of one season to start a new season?
Weekly, honestly. When I have at least 3 episodes and I'm like, is there going to be any time to do more? Yes, no, maybe so. Yeah, so I told the story last time about the, what was it? The robbery
on the Siskiyou Pass.
The Siskiyou massacre. And now he has a story that is his story, and yeah.
Yeah, so this story is a story of relevance of, it's my story. And what I'm going to do, for those of you who don't know, I am the Chief Mechanical Officer at the Grand Canyon Railway. We haul passengers from Williams, Arizona up to the Grand Canyon. And so this is a story of how I, through Grand Canyon Railway, purchased 2 locomotives about 10 years ago, 2 diesel locomotives for the railroad. And it goes back to 2016. Is where our story starts, and the railway was getting busier. Business was increasing back then, and we had 3 F40 style locomotives that we had purchased from Amtrak back in, I think, 2003. We had put all 3 of them in service. The 3rd one went into service in 2010. They were working out great for us. We liked them a lot. We also had some older 1959 Alco locomotives that we were still using as backup, but as business levels were increasing, and we realized that the Alcos, being due to their age, were probably not a good long-term solution for the railroad. Unfortunately, they're classic looks, and all the rail fans like them. I like them, but the F40s are a little bit more modern, being built in the 70s and 80s. They have higher horsepower. They have dynamic brakes. They have HEP generators in order to provide electricity for the passenger cars, all things that the Alcos did not have. And the Alcos, being older, not manufactured anymore. The manufacturer was long since out of business. Wiring was wearing out, was going to need to be replaced. Control systems were going to need to be replaced. Parts were getting harder to come by. And so we decided that the future was going to be to acquire more of these F40s. So I convinced the company that this was, the direction we needed to go. And in 2016, they gave me a budget of about $750,000 in order to acquire another locomotive.
Jeez, wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
Well, a lot of money, but locomotives cost a lot of money.
Yep. Yeah, they're not steam locomotives though.
well, you buy them cheap, but then you put, I mean, and you get a toss-up. You
Yeah.
can either buy a cheap locomotive for a cheap price and then put a ton of work into it, or you could spend more money to buy a locomotive that's in better shape, and then you don't have to put as much work into it. So like I got enough money in order to probably buy a locomotive that was in reasonably good shape, that was not going to take a lot of effort to maintain or to get it into service. Something that we could be able to use, fairly easily right from the get-go. So they gave me a budget, and so I went on the hunt for some available locomotives. And believe it or not, there is actually brokerage sites for buying and selling locomotives and railroad cars and things like that.
So like a Facebook marketplace, but for railroad equipment.
Yeah, these things do exist. So I went to one of these online brokers that did have some F40s listed that were being retired from commuter service in Canada, and they had been on the brokerage site for a while. I'd been keeping my eye on them, and they were in the price range of what I was looking for. Price ranged anywhere from 300,000 to 600,000 based upon condition. So that's what I kind of set my sights on. So as soon as I got approval from the company in order to buy a locomotive, I contacted up this brokerage site and said, hey, I want to, I'm interested in one of these locomotives that you guys have listed on your site that's been on there for a while. And the guy that runs the brokerage site was, oh, I actually haven't heard from that seller in a long time. I haven't talked to them. I'm not even sure that those are still available. Let me find out. So a few weeks later, or something like that, he comes back and says, well, I finally, got a hold of them, and no, their locomotives are not available. They did something else with them, and they didn't tell me, and I just never took them off the site. So, well, geez, there goes my opportunity. So what's next? So meanwhile, I had heard, or my boss had heard about some locomotives. They weren't F40s, they were GP40s. And they had been in commuter service. They were passenger GP40s that were used in commuter service in Maryland. So, Maryland and around Washington, D.C. for the Maryland MARC, which is the Maryland commuter service. And they had been retired, and supposedly they were in decent shape, and they were looking to get rid of them. And in fact, I think they're looking to get rid of them. Mm-hmm. And so he knew a contact that said with a sales company, and we started talking, and the plan is that they were going to buy one of these locomotives from the people that were selling them. They were going to contract with a shop in order to rebuild it for us, and then sell it to Grand Canyon Railway with delivery to Williams as a fully operable locomotive. We would just have to make a few minor touches. We would put a paint job on it, and we'd have a running locomotive basically when it showed up at our doorstep or very shortly thereafter. Now, a GP40 was not what my boss really wanted, because they liked the F40 style. They wanted these things consistent, but the fact that these were passenger locomotives, they did have the dynamic brakes, they had the same horsepower, they had the same internal, even though the body was different, the internal parts were the same.
They've got the HEP generator.
They had a HEP generator in them, yep. And so I actually thought that I was actually looking forward to getting a GP40, because I had an older freight unit that we use on work trains that I also wanted to retire, and I felt like this locomotive could work dual purpose. Mm-hmm. It could either go on the passenger train, or we could use it for work train service. It would work well both ways. So I was kind of thought this was a pretty good idea, even though my boss didn't really want a GP40, he wanted an F40, but this was that I knew that it was available at the time. So we started talking to this company about working out this deal, and in March, myself and one of my colleagues went out to make an inspection trip to look at these locomotives. And as we had been talking about with this company that was the brokerage that was selling these, or that was going to sell it to us, they gave me a price, and I said, and as we got the prices, well, that's within my budget, that works okay, and said, all right, well, but I wanted to know more about the features of these particular locomotives, and I was more interested in things like the air dryer. What type of air dryer did it have on it? Did it have extended range dynamic brakes? Mm-hmm. Did it have a block heater, a freeze protection block heater installed and things like that. And they basically came back and says, well, actually, we don't know the answer to those questions. But because they weren't the ones, they didn't own the locomotives. They had to, they were a brokerage that was going to buy it, fix it, and then resell it. So they didn't know the answer to these questions, but they said, well, I'm sure when we rebuild a locomotive for you, we can have these things installed, but the price is going to go up. I was like, okay, well, if they don't have them and you're going to add those, all right, well, that's reasonable. We'll pay a little bit more for those features. And then they came back and said, there's actually somebody else that's interested in these locomotives, and they've already picked out one of them that they want, and that was the one that was in the best shape. So we might have to settle for one of the ones that's not as good a shape. It might need a little bit more work, and we might have to charge you more because it's going to need more work. I'm like, well, okay, well that kind of sucks, but all right. So then they also said, then this other company, they picked out one, but they want to buy all of them. There was 10 of them. Basically, they want to buy all 10, but we told them that we're holding one for you, and if you want it, and then they'll buy whatever's left. So that was kind of like pushing the sale that we had to make a decision. We had to move forward on this fairly quickly.
Yeah, that's not healthy. Not good. Oh, hi. Also, this is my sister Helen.
What?
We're doing episode 2.
Oh, sorry. I didn't even know.
It's fine.
Can you help me do the lid? I don't want to put it in the dishwasher.
Okay, I'll do that later, okay? Okay, so leave it on the counter. Okay.
These guys don't sound the best.
Right. Well, so this was getting a little bit uncomfortable, but we were, trying to move forward with this. So we went out to look at these locomotives, and they were going to be in southern Pennsylvania, south central Pennsylvania. So myself and one of my colleagues, we flew into to Philadelphia, and we're going to stay a couple nights in Philadelphia, and then make the drive out to into Pennsylvania to look at these locomotives. So meanwhile, I'm in the hotel, and the first night or the first morning that we were in Philadelphia, and I get a contact from our sales rep at Progress Rail, which is a fairly large company in the aftermarket railroad industry. They do quite a few things, and he said that he got word that there were some F40s that were being de-acquisitioned from New Jersey Transit, which operates northern New Jersey and in and out of New York City.
New Jersey,
yeah. So New Jersey Transit, they had some commuter operation, and they had a bunch of F40s, and they had upgraded their motive power, and they had some, and they were going to get rid of them. And he gave me a contact of somebody that I could talk to. And they basically the thought was that they didn't really have them officially on the market, but for the right price, they could be sold. And so I'm thinking, well, gee, I've been sitting in Philadelphia. These locomotives are basically on the outskirts of New York City. That's a 2-hour drive from where I'm at. Now, I'm going east to go look at these GP40s.
You are getting closer.
Well, no, I'm going farther away. I'm going east to look at the GP40s. I'd have to go
southeast and then north.
The north to go to New York, but I'm thinking if we could hurry up, get over, look at these GP40s, just rush through that really quick, not spend too much time, then haul butt and go to New York City, I might be able to see these locomotives, and maybe I can make an arrangement to see those locomotives later in the day, at the same day before coming back to Philadelphia and flying back to Arizona. So, I was like, wow, that was going to be a marathon, but hey, if we're that close, let's try and make this work.
Yeah, while you're out there.
While we're out there, right? So, but I got a hold of contacted the guy in New Jersey that was, with New Jersey Transit, that was selling these locomotives, that was in charge of it. And he says, no, I'm afraid now's not a good time for us to come up and look at the locomotives, because they were getting ready, their union was getting ready to go on strike, and everything was chaos. And they're like, we don't have time to deal with showing you locomotives. So I was like, well, screw that. Too bad. So we stuck with the original plan. We went, a couple hours east to look at these GP40s, and they were sitting on a branch line on a lead into a scrapyard, out in the middle of nowhere in south central Pennsylvania, somewhere between Philadelphia and Harrisburg.
It's kind of strange.
Kind of strange, right?
Yeah, I figured they'd be at like a shop facility by
Nope.
now.
Nope, they were sitting on some isolated piece of track in the middle of the woods.
Oh no, is this gonna be they're not properly in the roster situation and you have to chase them across all of the east like corridor?
I don't know anything about that. They were sitting there, and they've been sitting there for a while.
Okay, so it's nothing like the Pueblo Cabis.
I don't know anything about the
Okay.
Pueblo Cabis.
Alright.
So we go out there, we meet the sales reps from this brokerage company out there, and they had a mechanical person from the shop that was going to rebuild them, and they had and there were 10 locomotives. I believe maybe not all 10 locomotives were out there. Maybe there were 5 of them. But the one that they had told us previously that was in the best shape, that they then told us that we couldn't have because somebody else had bought it, was sitting there at the front of the line. So we crawled all over that locomotive, and it was actually in really, really great shape. It was a nice locomotive. It apparently hadn't been sitting around for very long. All the components were there. Everything looked clean. Nothing looked like it was majorly damaged. Of course, we couldn't start the engine. It didn't have starting batteries.
Right.
It wasn't lubricated. So all we could just do is look at it sitting there. But at a glance,
Yeah,
as
the
much
fluids
as
have been drained, everything's been discharged. Everything,
but
yeah.
as best as we could look in the condition that it was in, we crawled all over that thing, and it was complete. Electrical components, which sometimes get corroded due to weather, they were all in really good shape. Looking in the engine and looking through, and nothing looked rusted or anything like that. So there was no reason that I would think that it was going to need any major work. It looked like it was going to be in pretty good shape. Good deal, right?
Sweet.
So I said, okay, well, and then guess what? The things that I was really looking at, did it have extended range dynamic brakes? Did it have a block heater? Did it have the right type of air dryer? It did. It had all of those things. So I went to the sales guy. I said, hey, we added extra money into the budget because we thought we were going to have to add these things, but it's already got them. So can we reduce the sale price? And he was like, well, let's wait and see. Let's leave that in there and wait and see if it needs any more work, because that gives us a fudge factor.
That's a bit sketchy.
And I'm thinking, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking like, they're going to figure out something else. And I'm like, this locomotive doesn't really need that much work. I can tell. Anyway, we made a handshake agreement and said, yep, we're still going to move forward, because I didn't really feel like it had a whole lot of other options.
No.
So we go back to Arizona, and meanwhile, now we're starting to work out a contract, and we got lawyers involved, and we got their lawyer talking to our lawyer, and they're going back and forth, and they're arguing over terminology, and they're arguing over warranties and all kinds of stuff. And it's going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and this is going on for months. And so now we're getting into the summertime, somewhere close to this in the summertime, and somebody clued me in. I don't remember who it was, and said, hey, there's some F40s that are coming available on an auction. I saw it listed on an auction. You should check it out. So I went on to this auction site, and sure enough, those New Jersey engines in New Jersey were coming up for auction. They were going to auction them off on a government auction, and
government auction.
a government auction because they're government.
Right.
It was a
Right.
state-owned
New
railroad.
Jersey, yep. Okay.
So it was a government operation. So a government website was going to auction off these locomotives, and they were going to auction off like one every 3 weeks. The bidding process was going to last 3 weeks. They would have one come up. It would be a 3-week bidding process, and then, I guess then maybe it was going to be then wait a week and then auction off another. So basically, one a week with a 3-week bidding time for each locomotive, and then one a month.
Got it.
And then there were, I think, like 8 locomotives in total that they were going to auction off. And the auction was going to start fairly soon, like in the next couple of weeks or something. The first one was going to come up pretty soon.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was a contact on there for who to contact if you want to know more about the locomotives. They had pictures on them. They had maintenance records and things like that you could look up on the website, information on them. And if you wanted to go see them in person, there was a phone number of a guy to talk to. Well, it was the same guy that I had talked to several months earlier when I was in Philadelphia. So
the same New Jersey Transit.
same new. So I'm like, this is the same locomotives, same guy. Now they're actually being, instead of they're being offered for auction, here's an opportunity for us to buy them. And so I talked to my boss about it, and I said, hey, this might be a really good deal. So some of these locomotives had only been, according to the maintenance records, they'd only been out of service for a few years. And they showed some of them as being complete, some of them had been stripped for parts. But overall, they didn't look too bad. My boss was like, well, how much do you think they're gonna go for? And I don't know, I was like, well, scrap price, just based upon price of scrap per pound and weight of the locomotive, figured about 30 grand. I was like, so, I mean, they'll probably go for at least that, but I don't know how much more than that. Depends on how interested people are. And so he said, well, I'll give you a budget of $100,000, and and if you can get one for under 100,000, then great. Now the auction was coming up pretty quickly, and I was busy with other things. There was no way I could make an emergency trip to fly out to New Jersey to take a look at them. So. But I'm basically figuring if I can get a locomotive for 100 grand and all the parts are there, it's worth that much just in parts. Even if it doesn't run, just in parts, it's worth $100,000. So there's, we'll give it a shot and see what happens. So the first engine comes up for bid, and I put in a bid, and the way the auction site works is you put in your maximum bid, and then you put in a starting bid, and then you put in the maximum that you're willing to go, and then if somebody else outbids you, it automatically places a bid for you to outbid that other person by $500 up until you reach your maximum bid that you pre-programmed in.
Because then you don't have to sit there waiting.
Yeah. And then it's a floating. The end of the auction was a floating time. So like if it said that it was going to end at like noon on such and such a day, and it seems to me like I remember it was supposed to end on a Thursday because I was at a meeting when I was doing the bidding thing, and so when you get to the if it's supposed to end at noon and then somebody bids like within like the last 5 minutes or something like that, or 10 minutes or whatever, it extends the time of the auction so that somebody can't come in and bid at like the 9th hour and then put in a bid right as the auction's expiring, and then nobody has a chance to bid. Mm-hmm. So it at least gives you time so that if you bid at the last minute, it gives time for somebody else to outbid you. So anyway, at first there were several bidders, and the bids were, modestly in the, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, and they were, going up and going up and going up and going up. And as the bids got higher, more and more bidders were dropping off. And then it was coming down to me and then one other bidder. And we kept outbidding each other and outbidding each other and outbidding each other until I got to my limit of $100,000, and I stopped. And then he won the auction for a little over $100,000 and plus some change or something.
500 or something.
Yeah, something like that. And like, well, okay, too bad on that one. Well, there's another one coming up. We'll try again. Meanwhile, the lawyers for the GP40 had been going back and forth, and all our lawyers were basically just said, you know what, we're not able to work with these guys. We're not able to get a contract. We think that we should just give up. And I was like, well, and my boss was like, yeah, we've got some other opportunities over here. Yes, I agree. Let's give up on this GP40 and let's put our eggs into this auction with these F40s. I prefer those anyway. Mm-hmm. So the next bid engine was coming up for bid. And meanwhile, and then I also get a phone call from a guy that owned his own locomotive repair leasing company out on the West Coast. And he says, hey, I'm actually the other bidder that you bid against on the first locomotive. And I know I got the locomotive, but I really didn't want to pay that much for a locomotive. And he said, are you interested in trying to get more still get interested in locomotives? And I said, yeah, actually I was probably going to get one, and maybe depending on how much it goes for, I'd maybe get one or two. And he said, okay, well, I'll make you a deal. He says, I want to get some more locomotives also, but the next 2 locomotives that are coming up in auction are supposed to be, I've been told, are the best of the lot. And then there's more after that that are in various more states of disrepair. He says, those will be fine for me. He says, I promise I will not bid on the next 2 locomotives. I will not compete with you if you don't bid on any of after that. I was like, deal. So the next locomotive came up for bid, and again, it came down to me and then one other bidder. And I knew it wasn't this guy. I didn't know who it was.
Yeah.
One other bidder. And we were outbidding each other a little bit at a time and inching our way up. And it got to $80,000, somewhere around $80,000.
Could be worse.
And the other bidder dropped out. So I bought a locomotive for $80,000 and then had to pay the auction house gets 12.5%, so add another $10,000. So basically for $90,000.
So
Well,
10,000 under your budget. That's not bad.
Right? No, that was great. Well, but now my budget, because we had canceled that contract with the other thing,
Oh, so your
now I
budget
have
got
$750,000.
Oh. Oh.
So like for $750,000, I bought a locomotive for $90,000. We're gonna get one more. We're trying for one more. So, because why stop at one if we've got money already sitting here in the pot? Let's get another one. This is a great deal, right? So then same thing. A week later, next bidding process starts for the next month for the next locomotive, and bidding process works almost exactly the same. There's one other bidder. We just keep going out bidding ourselves. Blah blah blah. He had a limit of $80,000. He gets to $80,000. I outbid him by $500 or whatever. Get the locomotive for $80,000, said plus the auction fee, so another $90,000. So I just bought 2 locomotives at $90,000 a piece in New Jersey, and I've never seen them. Nobody in my company has ever seen these locomotives. Bought them sight unseen.
Mm-hmm.
So now we got to get them to Williams. We got to get them to Arizona.
Yeah, a bit of far.
Okay, so the auctions are all over. I talked to this guy in New Jersey, and he was like, "Yep, we can help get the locomotives prepped for you. We can ship them on the freight railroads." So they had interchange with CSX, but they didn't have a direct interchange with CSX. There was some short line intermediary that they had to go to get to CSX.
Oh, this is gonna get screwed up, so the locomotives end up somewhere wrong, right?
Well, we're not to that part of the story yet.
Oh no! Oh.
But they said we can get the locomotives ready for ship for you. If they need air hoses, they need the brakes worked on. They need to have
the basic
reporting marks.
can it roll?
Yep, exactly, right, to get the freight railroads to accept it on their line. And the locomotives, apparently were not in that bad a shape. So they got the locomotives ready for us, and then they said, the short line doesn't want to move all the locomotives out to CSX. Your locomotives out to CSX because we've got other locomotives that are going to go as well for other people that won the other auctions, and they want to take them all out at once, and they're not ready to go yet. So when everybody's ready, we'll take them all out to CSX. So I had to wait another month or something in order to get the locomotives out to CSX.
Yeah, simplicity unit trains. Makes sense.
Right. So I was like, well, I can kind of understand that, but I kind of had a plan. I had other plans going. So meanwhile, Heritage Rail Alliance, which is an organization for tourist railroads and museums and things like that, they have an annual conference. The annual conference was going to be in Savannah, Georgia that year in like the first week of November. And so backtracking a little bit, so we really wanted to get these locomotives, and we wanted to get at least one locomotive in service as soon as possible. I was hoping to have it ready for Polar Express. So this is sometime in the summer, and I was hoping to have it ready for Polar Express, which starts in the early November of that year. Yeah. So I'm thinking, well,
because then you're not running one locomotive between both trains.
Right. Yep. So, and I'm thinking, well, the one way to help with that is maybe if I hire a company in order to rebuild the locomotive for us, because that has a bigger shop facility than I've got. I mean, I know my staff is more than capable, but we also have other things going on. It's going to take some time.
It's polar season. Everything's going to go wrong.
We got all kinds of other things going on. So it's in order to expedite this and make this go faster, what if I contract out some of this work? So Progress Rail was the company that had initially told me about these locomotives in New Jersey, and when I talked to them, he had said, hey, maybe we can, if you buy these locomotives, maybe we can work with you in order to, help you get them operational.
Mm-hmm.
So I called up Progress Rail, and they said, yeah, we can totally help you out with that. Talked to my sales guy, he was a great guy, and they had a shop in southern Georgia where they were already working on some F40s. They were rebuilding F40s for Chicago's commuter system. So they were very familiar with F40s. And he said, hey, you know what? We can bring them down to our shop in Georgia, and we can go through them for you and work on them, whatever you want to get done on them before we ship them out to Arizona. All right, that sounds pretty good. So we made plans that they were going to ship from New Jersey to Georgia. And so I thought, well, I'm going to Savannah for this conference. Their shop is not that far away from Savannah, only a couple hours. And so maybe I can kill two birds with one stone. So remember, I haven't seen these locomotives yet.
Might as well.
So they can ship the locomotives to Georgia. I'll fly out to Jacksonville. They said that's the closest major airport. Flying to Jacksonville, where Progress Rail also has a facility or a business facility there. Because they do a lot of work with CSX, and that's where CSX is headquarters.
Yeah.
So I said, fly out to Jacksonville, and then we'll drive up together to Georgia to look at these locomotives when they come down.
All right.
And like, okay, so this is, we're talking, this is September.
Yeah.
I'm thinking this conference is in November. Yeah, they should be down there by then, and then I'll go up to there and see that. Well, so
And then they don't ship the locomotives for a month.
yeah, so now they're, so by the time I went to the conference in Savannah, I flew into Jacksonville, went to the conference in Savannah, and the locomotives hadn't even left New Jersey yet. So, because I was thinking, well, even if they get somewhere close, maybe I can intercept them somewhere en route and look at them on a sidetrack or something like that, in a yard or something, and just at least take a quick look at them. But they hadn't even left New Jersey by then. So I still ended up making the trip. I went to the conference in Savannah. I met the sales guy. We went up to the shop in Patterson, saw the work that they were already doing there on the Chicago engine, saw where the capabilities were. We made a plan for what preliminary work we knew that we wanted to do, because we knew we were going to need to re-gear these locomotives anyway. They were geared for passenger railroads, 95 mile an hour. We operate at 40 mile an hour. We've re-geared everything to freight gearing. So we knew we were going to need to do that anyway. So it said, so we already made a plan that we're going to let Progress Rail take care of that aspect of it. They're going to change out all the traction motors, all brand new or rebuilt traction motors, brand new wheel sets. While they're at it, they'll go through the trucks and replace any wearable parts on the trucks that were in bad shape. And we're going to start with that. And then after that, then we would kind of assess the quality of locomotives and then build a project list after that. But you can start with that. So anyway, so I came back to Arizona. Those locomotives finally arrived in Georgia, I think about the end of November.
Okay.
So they got started with the replacing the traction motors, and then myself and a colleague went out there in January in order to look at them. And we looked at them. We looked over the locomotives. By then, Progress Rail had kind of created their own inspection report, looked at what kind of things that they looked like were going to be needed. We looked them over, said, man, these locomotives are actually in pretty darn good shape. They're not, for what we paid for them. I mean, these look like they're pretty good, but they're going to need some modifications. They needed a little body work.
Right.
Commuter railroads have some things set up differently than Amtrak did. We're using Amtrak specs, so some things were going to have to be modified to meet our Amtrak specifications, different from what New Jersey Transit was doing. So we knew there was going to need some work. Even if the locomotives were in good shape, they were going to need some work. So anyway, we came up with a plan and with that, and then we came back to Arizona, and we decided, you know what, due to budgetary costs, we're going to have, and time, we're going to have, as soon as the one locomotive, they get the traction motors all done and re-geared, we're going to have them ship that locomotive to us in Arizona, and we will take care of working on it at our own time and our own pace, and we'll fix that one up, do the rest of the work on that one.
Because then it'll be earlier for Polar, and you can.
Well, no. Well, what we're thinking is that then they would work up the other locomotive. They would probably be able to do it faster than us. Then we would get that locomotive available for Polar, and then the other one that we would actually get earlier, we would just kind of work on it in between other projects, and we would get it done when we get it done. But I wasn't expecting to have that one for Polar.
Yeah.
I was expecting Progress Rail. They were going to fix up a locomotive, have an operational locomotive, body work done, ready to run, painted in primer, and then ship it to us.
Yep. Plug and play.
And then we would paint a paint job on it and be done, and it would be ready to run. And I was even thinking, even for in the time just to get through Polar, if I could run it in primer was actually what we ended up doing, and then paint it later.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, now we're getting into summer of 2017, and so they've got the locomotive, they've got the traction. The 4124 is what we decided was the 4128 we decided was the best of the locomotives. That was the one that they were going to rebuild. The 4124 was the one that was not in as good a shape, and so that was the one they were going to ship to us first. So now I need to organize shipping for get 4124 from Georgia to Arizona, and it's got to go from CSX, interchange with CSX.
But New Jersey Transit already ordered everything around, and is this gonna be like a mix-up of like?
No, the locomotives have already. New Jersey Transit's out of the picture now.
Okay,
So
so
the
they already have it.
The locomotive is now in Georgia. The locomotives are in Georgia at the Progress Rail facility, and so now I got to get a locomotive from Georgia, which is on CSX. It's got to get interchanged with BNSF to come to Williams, Arizona. So, I have to set up an account with CSX. I have to create a waybill, and not having done any of this before, it was kind of a pain, sort of learning how to do this. Eventually, I managed to get a phone call to a live person. That was actually really helpful.
Wow, people are helpful.
You know what? Once I finally got through to the right person, they helped me out. But it took a while in order to figure out what I needed to do, who I needed to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
Once I got the right person, they were fairly helpful. Got everything in the system. We got a waybill created, and then I went to Progress Rail and said, "All right, we're ready to ship this locomotive. I got an account set up with CSX. You guys can take it out. You guys can tell your local CSX crew that they can come pick up the locomotive, because they were only about 30 miles outside of a yard. The local came by there all the time.
Yeah.
They had a relationship with the local crew and said, tell those guys they can come pick it up and take it down to the yard. And the guy, and my Progress Rail representative says, actually they picked that locomotive up about a month ago.
Oh, no. Does it go back to New Jersey?
No,
No.
it does not go back to New Jersey. So
Does it just go in a circle and go back into Georgia?
This is where the story gets really convoluted.
Oh.
So BNSF and CSX interchange in basically four locations: New Orleans, Memphis, St. Louis, and I think Chicago. So what seemed to be the most direct line is to go through Memphis. Okay, so from Georgia over to Memphis, interchange with BNSF, and then come across to pick up the Transcon, and then come over the Transcon.
So not too bad. Pretty straightforward. Maybe three or four different maybe 3 or 4 different major yards.
Yeah. Makes sense.
And then once you're on the Transcon, it's like I-40. It's just
makes sense, right? So anyway, I had set up the waybill and the shipping information that told them that the locomotive should transfer to BNSF in Memphis, and BNSF should get into Memphis.
Mm-hmm.
So when I called Progress Rail and said, all right, you guys can take the locomotive, tell CSX to pick up the locomotive, they said, the locomotive they've already picked it up.
Oh.
So I went online, and equipment that ships on the Class 1s has what's called an AEI tag. And it's a little thing that's stuck on the side of a locomotive, and it's like a barcode kind of thing. It's in case you just see like a plastic housing,
Mm-hmm.
but then as it goes down the line at different places, it goes through these scanners, and the scanner will register it and then load it into a database, and that's how they track things across their system as things move across the system.
Okay, because then something happened. Is it still here?
Yeah, so they know where everything's at.
Yeah.
within a few miles every time they trip a reader, which is like every 25 miles or so.
Yeah.
So you have an idea of where it's at.
Well, at that point, pretty much over a little under half the length of a CSX train.
So now I've got an account with CSX, so I can go into CSX's computer and track my locomotive and see where it's at. So this now it's June, and he says that the locomotive they had picked it up back in May, almost a month ago. And I go into CSX's computer, and sure enough, it's gone from their yard in Waycross, Georgia, up to Nashville, and now it's sitting at a yard outside of Indianapolis, Indiana.
That's not what you agreed on.
Yeah, but I hadn't even programmed this into the system. We probably hadn't even paid an invoice in order for shipping yet.
By the time it was May.
Yeah.
Oh, did they mix up numbers when they sent it to the auction and it ended up going?
I have absolutely no idea.
Oh.
So anyway, but now this locomotive is sitting in a yard outside of Indianapolis. And like, all right, so this is weird. So I contact CSX, like, hey, I see that my locomotive's in Indianapolis. It's supposed to come to Arizona. It needs to interchange with BNSF. And so I'm thinking they're probably going to ship it south to Nashville and then put it in a westbound train that's going to take it from Nashville to Memphis to interchange with BNSF. No, they take it in another train that goes over to St. Louis. So they go west to St. Louis. I'm like, okay, well, all right. They interchange with BNSF at St. Louis. I don't really care.
Just get it there.
Yep, it's going west. That's good. So BNSF gets a locomotive in St. Louis, and they take it south to Memphis. So instead of going west, they take it south to Memphis.
And then they take it from Memphis to Arizona.
No, first they got to go north and go to Galesburg, Illinois, where they have a big yard, which is like, it's like halfway between like Chicago and St. Louis. So it goes from St. Louis, south to Memphis, then north again to Galesburg.
Why didn't they just go from there to there? Wait, that's CSX. Wait.
Now this is on BNSF. So now, but at least in Galesburg is a connection with the Transcon. So in Galesburg, then it goes on a westbound train along the Transcon. So it's coming west.
It's coming our direction.
It's coming our direction.
It's going there.
Yep, it's coming our direction. So it's coming west now. And
they made a what is it, pentagram, but it works anyway. They may or may not have just hexed your locomotive, but it's fine.
Okay, so it's coming west, and it gets dropped off I think in Winslow. All right, so Winslow is now.
Yeah, not that far.
Okay, right, but so
it's in Arizona.
It's in Arizona, right? But remember that the Grand Canyon Railway interchange with BNSF is not on the Transcon. Our interchange is on the Phoenix.
It's on the Peavine.
The Peavine,
which is at Williams Junction.
Right. Well, the Peavine and the Transcon branch off at Williams Junction, but our interchange is in Williams, which is a couple miles down from Williams Junction along the line to Phoenix. So for those who don't know,
not bad.
Yeah. So the Transcon, which runs Chicago to LA, runs a little bit north of us, and then the Phoenix subdivision branches off just a little bit east of us, comes through town. That's where we interchange. Grand Canyon Railway interchanges with BNSF
At the depot.
Then that line goes south to Phoenix.
Yeah,
Ours goes south to
I'll
Phoenix.
have a photo up here, and if you've ever ridden on GCR, the overpass or the small tunnel, in quotes, that's the main transcontinental.
Yeah, so we go underneath it, but we don't interchange right there.
No.
So in order for BNSF train, in order to drop off for Grand Canyon Railway, it has to be a westbound train so that they can stop and they can back in to drop off equipment for us before they continue on going west and then south to Phoenix.
Yeah, it's got to be.
So they switched the locomotive into a train to go to a train to go to Phoenix that they're supposed to drop it off. So I had a guy that worked for me at the time that had some connections with BNSF. He had worked for BNSF previously. He still has some connections out there. He'd worked out of Winslow. He knew some people. He knew the train master out there. And they said, yep, we're going to drop it off in Williams. The train's going to leave tomorrow, and it'll be there between around such and such a time tomorrow. So we're like, great. So we had a switch crew waiting. They were going to drop it off. We're going to pick it up, bring it onto our track as soon as they drop it off. So engine sitting out there with the crew. They're ready to receive this locomotive. The BNSF train comes through town, blows right through
Oh,
town.
hey,
doesn't
our
stop.
locomotive.
There goes a locomotive. It goes right on
They
by.
just leave it. They just take it with them.
They just took it with them.
Oh,
Yeah. So it goes down to Phoenix. So
Hey,
that
that's our locomotive.
so that line ends in Phoenix. So it goes down to
Oh.
Phoenix. And somebody
Oh.
sent me a nice picture of the locomotive sitting in the yard in Phoenix.
Oh, with the big turntable of all things too.
Yep. So it sat in Phoenix for a little bit. Then
Can't you just take it yourselves at this point? Just run it.
Exactly. Yeah, it's only a couple hundred miles away, right?
Just run it.
It's less than 200 miles away.
Yeah.
So it's down in Phoenix, and so now they got to get it back to us in Williams. We're like, well, how are they gonna do that? And so what they ended up is putting it on another train to go back to Winslow. So then it passed us again.
But they don't even have to back in for that one.
No. Well,
They could Dutch drop it.
Yeah,
Actually,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
a horrible
yeah,
idea.
you can't Dutch drop.
Oh.
Yeah, they don't do that.
Not anymore.
No, nobody does that anymore. So anyway, so now they got to take it from Phoenix back to Winslow again.
Right.
Then they got to put another train to go Winslow to Phoenix, and this time this train stopped. With apologies of the Winslow train master, they stopped and dropped it off for us in Williams. And basically, so it had left. So it left Georgia in May, and now it's July. So it took 2 months to get from Georgia to July. Luckily, when I pay the shipping rate,
They only pay what you scheduled for. Not what
you
got.
only pay for mileage from between basically beginning point and end point.
As the crow flies.
It has nothing to do with how many miles the wheels actually turn.
Yeah.
So it might have I paid for 2,000 miles. It might have run 3,000 miles. It might have run 4,000 miles. I don't know. I paid for 2,000 miles.
Apology from the train master. Did they just have like this new trainee fireman with like a note rubber banded around his ankle? He hopped down from the locomotive and he just pulled it from his sock or something. It's like, the Winslow train master bids us hello.
So we've got our first locomotive. We got the 4124.
Yay.
Now, meanwhile, Progress Rail's been working on the 4128, and it's getting close to the end of summertime. I remember it was probably around September-ish, August, September, and they're ready, and it's ready to go when they're ready to ship it.
Okay.
So, same plan, same thing. CSX, put in all the information, interchange in Memphis, turn it over to BNSF, come to Arizona. Okay? So,
Rinse and repeat.
rinse and repeat.
Well,
and I will say that first of all, I send so I sent a couple of my guys out in order to go out to Georgia to inspect the locomotive before I ship it, make sure
Right.
all the work's good and all that sort of stuff. That got delayed because apparently there was a hurricane that had just come through up the eastern seaboard, and everything was in a shambles.
was it okay?
But yeah, the locomotive was fine, but there's a bunch of other stuff that was in shambles. I guess when they went to Jacksonville, they stayed in the some hotel in Jacksonville, and the hotel had damage on it, and and the shop at Progress Rail, they had to clean up from hurricane damage, so things got delayed and stuff like that. But anyway,
As it goes.
so now we're ready to ship the locomotive. So CSX picks it up, they take it to their yard in Georgia, and then they put it on a train and take it to New Orleans. Like, why is it going to New Orleans?
I mean, I guess New Orleans still connects with BNSF.
Still connects with BNSF. It's like, I don't care where it interchanges. I don't care if it goes to Memphis or not. It just needs to get to
I'm
BNSF.
imagining CSX just has this three-way stub switch, like something you'd see in like narrow gauge, or just like narrow gauge Silverton or something. And it's just like, which direction is it going today? Train goes by, forces it that way. All right, I guess it's going that way.
Something like that.
Yeah.
It's like the rolling dice or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's all going that way generally, so it's okay.
So New Orleans, like, well, at least it went west, right? It didn't go north, it went west.
Right.
So anyway, I contact CSX and say, hey, my locomotive's in New Orleans, and they're like, oh yeah, we noticed that. We're gonna ship it back to Georgia.
No.
And I'm thinking, well, why don't you just interchange it with BNSF in New Orleans? And they're like, no, we're going to ship it back to Georgia. So, all right, so it sits in New Orleans for a week. Meanwhile,
why a week?
meanwhile, another hurricane comes through and hits New Orleans.
Yeah, this is summer 2017.
So this is 2017 in New Orleans, and so my locomotive got to New Orleans just in time to get hit by a hurricane.
And now it needs to go. Luckily, it's going back to Georgia because now it has to go get inspected again.
Okay, so now it's got to go back to Georgia, but they won't ship it because they claim that they haven't been paid for the shipment. In our account, says that we have to prepay for shipment. We can't ship on credit.
Because you're shipping it incorrectly.
Well, but I knew this. This was not a surprise to me. I knew our account was prepaid, needed to be prepaid. That's not a surprise. And they had sent me an invoice, and I given it to my accounting department. My accounting department was processing it, and I knew they were going to cut them a check, but it takes several weeks for that process to happen.
Yeah, this would have been right around time Xanterra ended up purchasing.
No. This is way after that. That was in 2008.
Okay.
This is almost 10 years later.
Okay, never mind. Still.
So I knew we hadn't, that we had to pay the bill before they would ship it. Okay, so if they were waiting for us to make a payment, why did they ship it to New Orleans, take it to New Orleans if we hadn't paid the bill yet? So now it's stuck in New Orleans, and now they're complaining that they're not getting payment, but it got to New Orleans without being paid. So now all of a sudden they're making a big deal out of it.
I'm thinking maybe Georgia yardmaster was sitting there. He's like, they haven't paid. Yeah, they'll probably pay eventually. And New Orleans has got to be like, no, it's Shaq's descendant or something. And he's just sitting there. He's like, they didn't pay the bill. This ain't going on my train. Nothing gets on my train.
So, so anyway, so eventually the accounting department, they get a couple days later, they get the check clears, they get paid, they ship the locomotive back to Georgia. All right, so now it's going to go from Georgia and it's going to go to Memphis. So they get it switched into a train to go to Memphis. It goes to Memphis.
Right.
It sits in Georgia for a little while before they get it switched into a train. Then eventually it goes to Memphis. That all seems, well, it shows on.
So it didn't go back to.
It shows on their system that it's going to Memphis. That's gone to Memphis.
Okay, so it went back to Georgia, but it didn't go back to the shops.
No, not to the shops.
No, okay.
No, it went to the CSX yard in Georgia. It didn't go back to the shop. Because it doesn't need to go back to the shop. The shop's done with it. So it's going to the yard in Georgia, their main yard in Georgia, in Waycross, Georgia, and it sits there for a little while. And then I'm looking at, and then I watch, on the computer, and I watch, where it's track its movement, and it shows that it's all of a sudden now it's in Memphis. And it's like a snap of the fingers, and it's just immediate. It's like it got transported from Georgia to Memphis. I'm like, well, that's really interesting.
It's where it needs to
It's
be.
like, okay, well, it's in Memphis. Good. So I check it every day, and it's still in Memphis, and it's still in Memphis. And I contact CSX and say, hey, my locomotive, it shows that it's sitting in Memphis. It's supposed to be interchanged with BNSF, but nothing's happening. What's going on? And like, we're not sure we're actually not really sure where it's at.
Did BNSF take it on the wrong train and didn't scan the waybill?
No, even better.
Oh.
So
they blew it up?
No, not that good.
They found out it wasn't hurricane proof after all.
No.
And they opened up the door and water just floods out. Fish start flopping all over the ballast.
So they're like, well, we're not sure. We're not sure where it's at. And so I call the guys at Progress Rail, and I says, hey, can somebody go down to the yard in Waycross, which is just a few miles down the road?
Might as well, yeah.
And say, hey, check and see if you see my locomotive sitting down there. And the guy calls me back and like, yep, it's sitting down in the yard in Georgia. So it never even.
It's right there.
So it hadn't even made it to Memphis. It was somehow the computer was showing it in Memphis, but it never actually left Georgia.
No, the conductor took the waybill, put it in his pocket, and left.
Something like that, right? So CSX, so I call up CSX like, you know what? I'm pretty sure this locomotive is still in Waycross, Georgia. And like, oh yeah, okay, we'll get it on a train and go to Memphis. So they get it on a train and it goes to Memphis, and this time I can see it going station by station.
It's actually in Memphis.
It's moving. It's checking off. It's not just a snap of my fingers and it's all of a sudden in Memphis. It's actually trekking off, station by station as it goes. They're, tracking it, and it ends up in Memphis. And it sits in Memphis for a little while. I'm checking it, it's in Memphis, and it's in Memphis, and it's still there, And I contact CSX, and
This
say,
is still in Memphis.
and I contact CSX and say, hey, locomotives in Memphis, what's going on? Well, and I contact BNSF and say, hey, I see that you're supposed to be picking up my locomotive from CSX in Memphis, and like, we don't have it. Like, okay,
Clearly, it's still in Memphis.
well, but they were supposed to interchange it in Memphis from CSX to BNSF.
Yeah.
So they're supposed to interchange it. So I said BNSF, like, well, we don't have it. CSX hasn't given it to us. So I contact CSX and say, hey, I show that it's in Memphis. BNSF says they don't have it. So what's going on? We need to get it over to BNSF. And I say, we're not actually sure where it's at.
Not again.
They say, I think we actually gave it to UP by mistake.
How do you? What? Out of?
I'm like, well, this isn't good because
How do you accidentally give a locomotive to UP of all railroads?
And like, Union Pacific has even a worse reputation than BNSF
Exactly.
or CSX for trying to handle customers' merchandise. So I'm like, this is going to be a disaster.
So then why didn't you say anything?
Well, I did, but I mean,
why didn't they say anything?
Oh.
Why didn't they say, hey, UP, you took our locomotive?
Well, that's what they said, and they said, okay, we're going to try and get it back from UP. So, meanwhile, I go on the FOMR network, I go onto social media, and I say, hey.
Keep an eye out for this look. And put it on the back of a milk carton and send it to Sam's Club.
And that's basically exactly what I did. I went out and I said, hey, I'm looking for this locomotive. Anybody in the Memphis area, can you take a look around the yard or something and see if you see it, and let me know. And a day later, somebody sends me a picture of this locomotive sitting on the BNSF interchange track. So CSX.
So CSX can't read.
Well, CSX had actually given it to BNSF, but BNSF had not plugged it into their system. So now I go to BNSF and say, hey, BNSF,
this is sitting in your
this locomotive is sitting on your interchange track. I've got a picture of it sitting on your interchange track. Can we please get this in? Oh, yeah. Okay, all right, we'll take care of it.
At this point, you should send somebody out there with the weird, glowy sticks that they have on airplanes, just standing on top of the cab, just waving it back and forth.
They need to have fireworks shooting off, right? Or flares or something. Like, it's right here. Big arrows coming out of the right? So anyway, finally BNSF, they get it in their system, and then
it exists now.
And then they have to inspect it, and they're like, we're not sure that we can take it because it doesn't have alignment control couplers. Like, you just took another locomotive across the country that's in the exact same configuration, didn't have any problems, and now you're all of a sudden balking at this one, and then finally they accept, no, it's fine.
Shaq got his train back.
So it sat in Memphis for probably almost a month.
Oh.
Then it finally gets on a train and it heads west, and it goes to Tulsa.
Sweet.
And then from Tulsa it gets picked up at another trains on a train headed to Barstow.
Okay.
Barstow, California. So it's going west.
Yeah,
it's going in the right direction.
It's going to stop somewhere along the way.
So that's my thought. Is it's going to stop somewhere in Belen or Winslow, and they will set out the locomotive there in order for it to be picked up by a train going to Phoenix.
So now an employee is sitting in the dome car while BNSF's going over and say, "Oh, hey, our locomotive."
So.
Oh no.
So now we're getting into November, and it's Thanksgiving, and it's Thanksgiving holiday. We're having Thanksgiving dinner, and I'm on my phone on the app for BNSF, keeping track of this locomotive that's moving on Thanksgiving Day, headed west on the Transcon, and apparently on Thanksgiving Day they weren't stopping for nothing, and this train just kept moving.
We need food.
It just kept moving. So I'm watching it, and it's clicking off the miles, and it goes through Belen, and it keeps going, and it goes through Gallup.
They didn't connect.
And it keeps going, and it goes through Winslow, and it keeps going. And I'm like, if they bypass Winslow, I doubt they'll set it off in Flagstaff. They don't usually stop in Flagstaff, but maybe. Hey. Nope, it blows right through Flagstaff, and it's keep going. It's like
somebody's watching the rail cam and say, "Isn't that GCR's locomotive?"
So this train is headed to Belen, to Barstow, California. Not to Phoenix. It's headed to Barstow. So it's going on the Transcon. So like, well, if they didn't stop and set it out in Winslow, they didn't stop and set it out in Flagstaff.
They're
It
not
ain't,
stopping at
it ain't
Williams,
stopping. It's going to Barstow. So I drove down to Williams Junction. I don't know if you remember this.
Were you gonna flag him down? Oh yeah, I do remember that, and we watched him go by.
Did you? Yeah. So we drove down to Williams Junction at 7 o'clock, 7:30 at night. It's already dark because it's in November. It's
And
dark
then
by
it's my turn to watch. Oh hey, the locomotive.
And we watched the locomotive go by at 55 mile an hour headed to Barstow.
You didn't flag him down or anything?
What are you gonna do?
You could flag him down and say, "Hey, this is our locomotive. Here's all the stuff. We're just handling this ourselves at this point."
It ain't gonna work like that.
You couldn't jump on the train and pull the thing, and it just rolls behind, and the
No.
whole train dumps, and then you steal it.
Yeah, there's a couple right behind the locomotive, so it's not like it's on the end and you could just drop it.
Yeah, it's
Drop it on the fly. Don't work like that. So this train.
Wait, is it running? Is it under power?
No, it's not under power. It's towed dead in train. So the locomotive goes to Barstow. All right. So hey, BNSF locomotive, it bypassed us, went to Barstow. Oh, all right. We're so sorry.
Did you videotape it going by and then send it to them?
I would have, but it was dark.
Yeah.
And in basic, it was dark, and all we could see was just watching it go by in the headlights of the truck. So then, they're like, oh, okay, so it stays a couple days in Barstow. I don't remember, a couple days a week, and now it's got to go back east. And so they put it on another train, and this time they drop it in Winslow, and then it comes on a Phoenix-bound train, and it sits in Winslow for a little while, gets on a Phoenix-bound train,
Okay.
and then comes down. They dropped it off with us by now. I think like the 1st of December or something like that.
So
Again, about
so
2
in
months.
time for half of Polar. For
Right.
the second half of Polar.
So
Well, I guess you would have been running halfway through February or January at that point still. So
we ended like the first week of January, right? First Saturday in January.
still later than we do now.
Yes. Yeah.
Ugh. That,
So 2 months. 2 months again to get from Georgia to Arizona.
and this time it's mostly BNSF's fault.
No, CSX took it to New Orleans, and they lost it in. Well, I guess that was BNSF.
They lost it
in
twice.
Memphis.
They said it's missing again. It's missing again.
So that's my experience on shipping
Did
shipping
the 41,
equipment over freight railroads.
Does the 4128 also come with an apology note from the yardmaster?
No, because once they actually got it into Winslow, they actually got it to us in Williams.
Oh,
Road.
so the yardmaster didn't even know it went through Winslow.
No, he didn't.
Oh.
He may not have known that it went through Winslow. That train probably didn't stop for anything other than top up the fuel tanks.
Yeah. That's stupid. That's rough.
And that's why people don't ship stuff by train and they ship stuff by truck all the time. That's why you have all the trucks on their state, because trying to ship stuff by train is a pain.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're like Amazon or JB Hunt and you've got a whole unit train full of your stuff and you pay a premium, or UPS. Shipping stuff by rail is complicated.
Oof. Now, if this was anywhere in Europe where the tracks are all owned by the government and every company owns their own stuff, you could just send 2 guys out there to run it back yourselves. But
It don't work like that in this country.
no, it doesn't. That'd be pretty cool though. It's kind of like, oh hey, I haven't seen this part of the main line before.
Yep.
Ugh.
So I've got lots of good stories, but that was one I didn't have to worry about statute of limitations on. Some other stories, and maybe it's not time to share those yet because there's
still too sensitive.
there might be some sensitivity, and I don't want to call too many people out, but I don't mind calling out CSX or BNSF. On they don't know, but they don't care.
Crash, smash, explode, and
Maybe they might actually use this as a learning experience. Probably I doubt it, because they probably have customer issues with these type of things all the time.
Maybe Mr. Swain is watching.
He has nothing to do with this.
I know.
He's just an engineer.
He could have been the engineer watching your locomotive. Nobody behind him. He's like,
he might have been.
Oh hey, isn't that their locomotive?
Yep, he might have been one of the ones that clued me in and said, "Hey, it's sitting over here in Barstow."
Yeah. And that, ladies and gentlemen, on that bombshell, that's the end of episode 2. don't ship through Class 1 railroads.